perfect day turns dark. Carolyn Hayes stood before the full-length mirror in the bridal suite of Riverside Gardens, adjusting the delicate lace sleeves of her wedding dress for the 100th time. The gown had cost 2 months of her elementary school teacher's salary, but seeing herself in it made every penny worth it. Her dark hair was swept up in an elegant twist, held in place by her grandmother's vintage pearl hairpin. In exactly 20 minutes, she would walk down the aisle to marry Dylan Cooper. Her boyfriend of 4 years, her mother knocked softly before entering, tears already streaming down her face. "Oh, sweetheart, you look absolutely beautiful." Caroline smiled, fighting her own tears. "Don't make me cry, Mom. It took me an hour to get this makeup perfect. Your father is going to lose it when he sees you." Her mother adjusted the veil with gentle hands. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become, Caroline. Dylan is a lucky man. If only Carolyn had known how unlucky she actually was. A devastating discovery. I need to grab my phone from the preparation room," Carolyn told her mother. "I want to text Dylan one last message before we do this. You know, the traditional see you at the altar thing? It's sweet, honey. I'll wait here with your bouquet." Caroline walked down the hallway of the elegant venue, her dress whispering against the hardwood floors. The preparation room was 2 doors down from the bridal suite, and she'd left her phone charging there earlier. As she approached, she heard voices inside. Familiar voices. Her hand froze on the doorknob. "You have to stop this," a woman's voice said. It was Rebecca, her cousin and maid of honor. "This is wrong, Dylan. She's about to marry you in 20 minutes. "I know it's wrong," Dylan replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But I can't help how I feel about you. I've tried to fight it, Rebecca. For months, I've tried." "Shh." Caroline's hand gripped the doorknob tighter, her knuckles turning white. "Then call off the wedding," Rebecca insisted. "Don't marry her if you're in love with someone else. It's too late. Everyone is here. Her parents took out a loan for this wedding. I can't humiliate her like that in front of 200 people. So you'd rather humiliate her by marrying her while you're in love with me?" Caroline pushed open the door. The sight before her would be burned into her memory forever. Dylan and Rebecca stood inches apart, his hands on her waist, her arms around his neck. They sprang apart the moment they saw her, guilt written across both their faces. "Caroline," Dylan stammered, his face going pale. "This isn't what it looks like." Caroline's voice came out surprisingly steady, despite the earthquake happening inside her chest. "Really?" "Because it looks like my fiancé and my cousin are having an affair." "We didn't mean for this to happen," Rebecca said, tears streaming down her face. "It just did." "How long?" Caroline asked. Dylan looked at the floor. 3 months. While Caroline had been finalizing seating charts and menu selections, her fiancé had been sneaking around with her own cousin. While she'd been excitedly planning their future together, he'd been building a secret relationship with someone else. "Caroline, please." Dylan took a step toward her. "Can we talk about this? We can work through it." "Work through it?" Caroline's voice rose. "You've been cheating on me for 3 months, and you want to work through it?" "I made a mistake. I'll end things with Rebecca. We can still get married today." Caroline looked between them, fury and heartbreak warring inside her. "You must think I'm the biggest fool in the world." An unexpected arrival before Dylan could respond. The door opened again. A man Caroline had never seen before stepped into the room. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair and striking blue eyes. His suit was clearly expensive, tailored to perfection, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. "Excuse the interruption," he said, his voice smooth and calm. "But there are 200 guests out there wondering if there's going to be a ceremony or if they should start on the cocktail hour." Carolyn stared at him. "Who are you? Someone who happened to be in the neighborhood and noticed you have a significant problem?" He gestured at Dylan and Rebecca. "Let me guess." Unfaithful groom caught at the worst possible moment. "That's none of your business," Dylan snapped. The stranger ignored him, his attention focused entirely on Caroline. "You have a choice to make. You can cancel everything and disappoint everyone who came here today. Or you can marry him and spend the rest of your life wondering when he'll cheat again." He paused. "Or there's a third option." "What third option?" Caroline asked, intrigued, despite her devastation. "You could marry me instead." The room fell silent. Caroline was certain she'd misheard him. Excuse me? Marry me. Everything's already set up. The guests are here. Your grandmother flew in from Portland. It seems like such a waste to let all this planning go to nothing. Are you insane? Dylan burst out. Carolyn, don't listen to this lunatic. The stranger turned to Dylan with a look of polite disdain. I'm sorry, but you've lost your voting rights in this decision. You chose to betray her. Now, she gets to choose what happens next. Caroline should have been horrified by this proposal from a complete stranger. Instead, she found herself considering it. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the anger. Maybe it was the desperate desire to salvage something from this disaster. Who are you? She asked again. My name's James Whitmore. I'm 30 years old, I run my own business, and I happen to need a wife by the end of today or my grandfather will cut me out of my inheritance. Your grandfather's inheritance, Caroline repeated slowly. It's complicated. Old family rules. Basically, if I'm not married by my 30th birthday, which happens to be today, I lose everything. That sounds like something from a bad movie. My whole life is like a bad movie, James said with a slight smile. Look, I know this is crazy. But what do you really have to lose? You can't marry him. He nodded at Dylan. But you can either call everything off and face the questions and the pity, or you can walk down that aisle with someone who at least respects you enough not to cheat on you with your cousin. A bold decision. Carolyn looked at her torn dress in the mirror. Then at Dylan, who was pleading with his eyes for forgiveness she wasn't sure she could ever give. Finally, she looked at James, this mysterious stranger who'd walked into the worst moment of her life with an impossible offer. Why agree to this insanity? Carolyn said carefully. What exactly do you get out of it? A wife to satisfy my grandfather's requirements? A wedding that's already paid for? And the opportunity to help someone who clearly deserves better than what she was settling for? And what do I get? Besides not marrying a cheater, a marriage of convenience until we both figure out what we really want. Financial security. And my absolute promise that I will never, ever betray you the way he did. Dylan stepped forward. Carolyn, you can't be seriously considering this. You don't even know him. I thought I knew you, Caroline shot back. For years together, and I didn't have a clue you were in love with my cousin. At least with a stranger, I know exactly where I stand. She turned back to James. This is temporary, right? Just until you get your inheritance? As temporary as you want it to be? Carolyn took a deep breath. Her mother was going to think she'd lost her mind. Her father would probably try to talk her out of it. Her friends would question her sanity. But looking at Dylan's face, seeing the betrayal reflected back at her, Caroline realized she'd rather take a chance on a stranger who'd been honest with her for 5 minutes than spend another second with a man who'd been lying to her for 3 months. Okay. Let's do this. James's face broke into a genuine smile. Really? But I have conditions. No lies, no games. Complete honesty about everything, deal? And Caroline, I promise you won't regret this. I already regret it, she said, but she was almost smiling. But somehow it still feels better than the alternative. As they walked toward the door, Dylan called out desperately, Caroline, wait. You're making a huge mistake. She turned back one last time. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make, and at least this one comes with honesty. The ceremony begins. The wedding coordinator, Nancy, nearly fainted when James and Caroline explained the situation. After she recovered, she agreed to help make the necessary adjustments. The minister was somewhat harder to convince, but a generous donation to his church helped smooth things over. Caroline's parents were next. Her father, Robert, looked ready to either punch someone or have a heart attack. Her mother, Patricia, kept asking if Caroline had hit her head. Mom, Dad, I know this sounds crazy, Caroline said, holding both their hands in the venue's small family room. But I cannot marry Dylan after what he did, and I can't face everyone out there and explain why I'm calling it off. This way, at least something good comes from today. But sweetheart, her mother said gently, you don't know anything about this man. I know he's honest. I know he's here when he could have walked away, and I know that's already more than Dylan gave me. Her father studied James with a hard look. "If you hurt my daughter, son, you'll answer to me." "I understand, sir. And I give you my word that I'll treat her with nothing but respect." The wedding march began. Caroline took her father's arm, and they walked toward the doors that led to the ceremony space. Through the frosted glass, she could see the silhouettes of 200 guests turning to look toward the entrance. "Last chance to change your mind," her father whispered. Caroline squeezed his arm. "Let's give them something to talk about, Dad." The doors opened. The guests turned. And instead of Dylan waiting at the altar, they saw James Whitmore, a man none of them had ever met. Standing beside the minister with a confident smile, the gasp that went through the crowd could probably be heard 3 blocks away. Caroline's grandmother, sitting in the front row, turned to her neighbor and said loudly enough for half the venue to hear, "Now that's what I call an upgrade." As Caroline walked down the aisle on her father's arm, she caught glimpses of confused faces, heard the whispered questions, saw Dylan slumped in a back corner looking devastated. Rebecca was nowhere to be seen, and waiting for her at the end of that long walk was James, this impossible stranger who'd somehow turned the worst day of her life into something else entirely, something unexpected, something that might even turn out to be wonderful. When she reached the altar, James took her hand and whispered, "Still sure about this?" Caroline looked into his eyes and found genuine kindness there. "Strangely enough, yes." "Then let's give them a wedding they'll never forget." They did. The morning after reality, Caroline woke up in a hotel suite that definitely wasn't in her budget. Sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. The sheets felt like silk against her skin, and there were fresh roses on the bedside table. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then everything came rushing back. The betrayal. The stranger. The wedding, James. She sat up quickly, looking around the enormous bedroom. James was nowhere to be seen, but she could hear movement from another room. His side of the bed was made perfectly, like he'd never slept there at all. They'd agreed to share a suite but keep separate sleeping arrangements. This was a business deal, after all. A marriage of convenience. Caroline wrapped herself in the hotel robe and padded out to the living area. James stood by the windows, already dressed in casual clothes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Talking on his phone in what sounded like fluent Japanese, he noticed her and quickly ended the call. "Good morning. How did you sleep?" "Like someone who married a stranger yesterday," Caroline said, then immediately felt bad for the sarcasm. "Sorry, I'm not usually this sharp in the morning, given the circumstances. I think you're handling everything remarkably well." He gestured toward a room service cart loaded with breakfast foods. "I didn't know what you liked, so I ordered everything." Caroline looked at the spread. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, pastries, 3 kinds of juice. Everything might be an understatement. I tend to overdo things. James poured her a cup of coffee. "Cream? Sugar? Black is fine." She accepted the cup and sat down, suddenly aware of how surreal this all was. 24 hours ago, she'd been planning to marry Dylan. Now she was having breakfast with James Whitmore, whose last name she'd only learned yesterday, in a hotel suite that probably cost thousands of dollars per night. "So," she said, taking a sip of coffee, "tell me about this grandfather of yours and his inheritance rules." James sat down across from her, his expression becoming guarded. "It's complicated. We have time. And we agreed on honesty, remember?" He was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "You're right, okay. Full truth. There is no grandfather." Caroline set down her coffee cup carefully. "Excuse me? My grandfather died 6 years ago. There's no inheritance requirement. No family pressure to get married? Then why did you lie?" "I didn't exactly lie. I just let you believe something that wasn't true." James ran his hand through his hair. "The real reason I was at your wedding is because I've been looking for you." The coffee shop girl Caroline stared at him. "Looking for me? What are you talking about? We've never met before yesterday." "Actually, we have. 5 months ago, at a coffee shop in downtown Boston. You were running late to work, crashed into me, spilled your iced coffee all over my suit, and spent 10 minutes apologizing while trying to clean it up with napkins." The memory hit Caroline like a wave. the handsome businessman in the expensive suit. Her mortification. The way he'd smiled and told her not to worry about it. She'd been so flustered that she'd rushed off without even getting his name. That was you? That was me. And I've been trying to find you ever since. But why? It was just a clumsy accident. James leaned forward, his eyes intense. Because in those 10 minutes, while you were frantically apologizing and dabbing at my suit, you made me laugh more genuinely than I had in years. Because you cared so much about ruining a stranger's day that you were almost in tears. Because when I tried to get your number, you were already gone, and I realized I'd just let someone special slip away. Caroline's heart was pounding. So you hired people to find me? 2 different investigation firms. It took them 4 months to track you down. And when they finally did, they discovered you were engaged and planning a wedding, and you decided to show up anyway. I decided to see for myself if you were happy. I wasn't planning to interfere. But then I arrived and saw you through a window, standing in that preparation room with your fiancé and your cousin. I saw your face when you realized what was happening. James's voice softened. I couldn't walk away from that. I couldn't let you marry someone who didn't deserve you. Caroline stood up and walked to the windows, trying to process this information. So this whole marriage of convenience story was fake? The convenience part is real. I do need a wife, just not for the reasons I said. Then why? James joined her at the window. Because I'm James Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Technologies. My company is worth about $4 billion. And the moment the business world finds out I'm interested in someone, that person's life becomes a circus. I wanted to protect you from that for as long as possible. $4 billion. Caroline felt dizzy. You're a billionaire? Unfortunately, yes. You let me think you were just a businessman who needed a convenient marriage. I was going to tell you the truth. I just wanted you to get to know me first. To see me as James, not as James Whitmore, the billionaire. Caroline turned to face him. What else haven't you told me? That's everything. I promise. How can I trust that? You've been lying to me since we met. You're right. I should have been honest from the beginning. James took a deep breath. Ask me anything. Right now. I'll answer completely honestly. Questions and answers. Carolyn thought for a moment. Where do you live? I have a penthouse in downtown Boston, a house in the Berkshires, and apartments in New York and San Francisco. Any people work for you? Directly? About 50,000 employees worldwide. Have you ever been married before? No. You're my first wife. A slight smile, and hopefully my last. What do you actually want from this marriage? James met her eyes. Honestly, I want a chance. A chance to get to know you. A chance to show you that despite the crazy circumstances, we could actually be good together. And if I decide we're not good together, then we get an annulment or a divorce, and you walk away with enough money that you never have to worry about anything again. I don't want your money, I know. That's one of the things I like about you. Caroline sat back down, her mind racing. My job. What's going to happen when people find out who I married? James's expression became serious. That's actually something we need to discuss. The media has already picked up the story. There are reporters at your school asking questions. What? Caroline grabbed her phone, which she'd left charging overnight. Sure enough, there were dozens of missed calls and texts. Her principal, her coworkers, her friends. Everyone wanting to know what had happened yesterday? I'm sorry. I tried to contain it, but news travels fast in my world. Caroline scrolled through the messages, her stomach sinking. Several were from her principal, Dr. Janet Morrison, asking her to call immediately. This is going to ruin everything. Teaching is my life, James. It's not just a job. I know, and we're going to figure this out together. You can't just throw money at this problem. Actually, I kind of can. But I know that's not what you want to hear. James sat beside her. Call your principal. Find out what's happening. Then we'll make a plan. Carolyn dialed with shaking hands. Dr. Morrison answered on the first ring. Carolyn. Thank goodness. Are you all right? I'm fine, Dr. Morrison. I'm so sorry about all of this. Sorry? Caroline, there are news vans outside the school. Parents are calling asking questions. The superintendent wants to meet with me this afternoon. The principal's voice was stressed but not unkind. I need you to tell me what's going on. Caroline explained everything. The betrayal, the stranger's offer, the impulsive decision to go through with the wedding. She left out the part about James being a billionaire, but Dr. Morrison had clearly already looked him up. Caroline, you married James Whitmore. The James Whitmore. Do you understand what that means for the school? For your students? I know it's complicated, but I promise this won't affect my teaching. There was a long pause. The school board is meeting tonight. They're going to discuss whether your position here is still viable given the circumstances. Are you saying they might fire me? I'm saying they're concerned about the disruption this media attention could cause. Parents are already calling. Caroline. Some are worried. Some are excited. It's chaos. After the call ended, Caroline sat in stunned silence. In one day, she'd lost her fiancé and potentially her career. James's phone rang. He looked at the screen and grimaced. My sister. I have to take this. Meeting the family you got married? A woman's voice shouted through the phone, loud enough for Caroline to hear. Without telling me? Have you lost your mind? Hello to you too, Amanda, James said calmly. I'm looking at wedding photos online right now. Who is she? How long have you known her? Is she pregnant? She's not pregnant. Her name is Caroline Hayes. Well, Caroline Whitmore now. And it's complicated. Complicated. James, you run a $4 billion company. Every decision you make affects thousands of people. You can't just marry some random woman without telling anyone. She's not some random woman, and I'd appreciate it if you'd speak respectfully about my wife. There was silence on the other end. When Amanda spoke again, her voice was calmer. You really care about her, I do? Then I want to meet her. Today, no arguments. James looked at Caroline, who'd heard the entire conversation. She nodded. Fine, lunch at the Harbor View. 1 o'clock. After he hung up, Caroline said, Your sister sounds intense. Amanda is my business partner and the only family I have left. She's protective. What happened to your parents? James's expression clouded. My father left when I was 10. Just walked out one day and never came back. My mother died of cancer when I was 18. Amanda raised me while building the company. She's the reason we're successful. I'm sorry. I didn't know. How could you? We're basically strangers who happen to be married. James smiled sadly, but I'd like to change that. If you'll let me. Lunch with Amanda Whitmore arrived at the restaurant exactly on time, looking like she'd stepped out of a business magazine. Tall, elegant, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She hugged her brother, then turned to study Caroline with open curiosity. So you're the woman who married my brother after knowing him for less than a day? That's me, Caroline said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Brave or crazy? Probably both. Amanda's lips twitched. At least you're honest. Sit. Tell me everything. Over lunch, Caroline explained the situation again. Dylan's betrayal, James's unexpected offer, the impulsive decision that had changed everything. Amanda listened without interrupting, occasionally glancing at her brother with an expression Caroline couldn't quite read. And now? Amanda asked. What's your plan? We're figuring it out, James said. It's not a plan. That's hoping for the best. Amanda turned to Caroline. You need to understand something. My brother is not just wealthy. He's a public figure. Everything he does gets scrutinized. Every relationship, every decision, every mistake. If you're going to be married to him, even temporarily, you need to be prepared for that. I'm learning that pretty quickly. The media is already digging into your background. By tomorrow, they'll know everything about you. Your childhood, your education, your finances, your ex-boyfriend, everything. Caroline felt sick. Can't we stop them? No, but we can control the narrative. I've already drafted a press release. We announced that you and James have been in a relationship for months, that the wedding was planned, and that you're very happy together. It's not the whole truth, but it's close enough to shut down the more ridiculous speculation. You want us to lie to the press? I want you to protect yourselves. Trust me, the truth is much worse for public perception. Billionaire crashes wedding and marries bride on a whim sounds reckless and impulsive. Billionaire marries girlfriend in romantic ceremony sounds normal. James was shaking his head. I don't like lying. You're already lying by omission. This is just damage control. Amanda looked at Caroline. Unless you want reporters camping outside your school, following your students, questioning your parents. Carolyn thought about her fourth graders. About sweet little Emma, who was afraid of loud noises. About Timothy, who got anxious in crowds. About all of them being exposed to media chaos because of her decisions. "Okay," she said quietly. "We do it your way." The truth comes out that evening. Carolyn and James returned to his penthouse. Caroline had expected something ostentatious, but the space was surprisingly warm. Lots of windows, comfortable furniture, shelves full of books. It looked like a home, not a showroom. "What do you think?" James asked, watching her explore. "It's beautiful. Much more down to earth than I expected." "What were you expecting? Gold toilets?" "Maybe." Carolyn smiled. "Where will I stay?" "The master suite is yours." "I'll take the guest room, James. This is your home." "It's our home now. At least for as long as you want it to be." He showed her to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. "I had some of your things brought over from your place. I hope that's okay." Caroline saw her suitcases in the corner. "You went to my apartment?" "My assistant did. I gave her your address." "Was that overstepping?" "A little, but also thoughtful." Carolyn sat on the bed, suddenly exhausted. "This is all so much," James sat beside her, careful to keep some distance. "I know, and I know I've handled a lot of this badly. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I should have let you make an informed decision about marrying me. Why didn't you?" "Because I was afraid you'd say no. And I wanted a chance with you so badly that I was willing to bend the truth to get it." He looked at her. "That was selfish, and I'm sorry." Caroline studied his face. He looked genuinely remorseful. "What happens now?" "That's up to you. We can end this right now if you want. Annulment, divorce, whatever you need. Or we can try to make this work. No more lies. Complete honesty about everything. We take time to actually get to know each other and see if maybe this crazy situation could turn into something real. I'll do whatever I can to protect it. If the school board fires you, I'll hire the best lawyers. If the media won't leave you alone, I'll find a way to redirect their attention. Whatever you need, Carolyn. You have my word." Caroline was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I want to try. Not because of the money or the lifestyle, but because when you talk about finding me, about spending months searching for the coffee shop girl, I see something genuine in your eyes. And I think I'd be a fool to walk away from that without at least giving it a chance." James's smile was radiant. "Really? Really? But James? Yeah. If you lie to me again, about anything, we're done. No second chances, deal? Complete honesty from now on. Good now, tell me everything. Your company, your life, your dreams, everything. If we're going to make this work, I need to know who I actually married." For the rest of the evening, they talked. Really talked. James told her about building his company from nothing. About the pressure of managing so many people's livelihoods. About his fear of becoming like his father, who'd abandoned his family. Caroline told him about her students, about her dream of opening a free tutoring center for underprivileged kids. About the art history degree she'd never gotten to use because teaching paid better by the time they went to their separate bedrooms. Caroline felt like she actually knew her husband. And more surprisingly, she liked what she knew. Maybe this crazy marriage could actually work after all. The media. Storm Carolyn's phone wouldn't stop ringing. It had been 3 days since the wedding, and the media attention had only intensified. Her photo was on gossip websites. Her teaching credentials were being discussed on morning shows. Someone had even tracked down her college roommate for a quote about her character. Teacher turned billionaire's wife. Inside Carolyn Hayes' shocking wedding day swap. Read one headline. It's from classroom to penthouse. The Cinderella story you won't believe, claimed another. The worst part was, they'd found Dylan. He'd given an interview to a major news outlet. And the article had just gone live. James found Caroline in the living room, staring at her laptop with tears streaming down her face. What happened? She turned the computer so he could see. The headline read, "Jilted Groom Speaks Out. Was Billionaire's Wedding Crash a Setup?" James read quickly, his expression darkening with every paragraph. Dylan claimed Caroline had been researching wealthy men for months, that she'd deliberately caused the coffee shop collision with James, that she'd staged finding him with Rebecca to create an excuse to call off the wedding and marry a billionaire instead. Rebecca had provided a supporting statement claiming Caroline had confided the whole plan to her weeks ago. "This is completely false," James said, his voice tight with anger. "I know it's false. You know it's false. But everyone else?" Caroline gestured at the screen. "Half the comments believe him. They're calling me a gold digger, a con artist, a manipulator. People I don't even know are saying terrible things about me. We'll fix this." "How? How do you fix people's opinions once they've made up their minds?" James pulled out his phone. "Amanda, we have a problem." 20 minutes later, Amanda arrived with a team of 3 other people. A public relations specialist named Gregory, a lawyer named Vanessa, and a media consultant named Frank. They spread out across the dining table with laptops and tablets, analyzing the situation. "It's bad," Gregory said bluntly. "Dylan's story is gaining traction because it fits a narrative people want to believe. Rich man, poor woman, secret scheme. It's practically a movie plot." "So we tell the truth," Caroline said. "Which truth?" Vanessa asked. "That James hired investigators to track you down. That he showed up at your wedding uninvited? That you married him hours after meeting him?" "The real truth sounds almost as unbelievable as Dylan's lie," Frank added. "We need something better. We need evidence," Amanda said. She turned to James. "The coffee shop. Do they have security cameras?" "That was 5 months ago. The footage would be long gone." "Not necessarily. If they store footage in the cloud, we might be able to retrieve it." Amanda was already typing. "What was the name of the place?" "Bennett Street Coffee." "Why?" "Because if we can show footage of the actual coffee shop incident, we prove Caroline didn't stage it. We prove you two had a genuine first meeting, and that undermines Dylan's entire story." Caroline felt a flicker of hope. "Would that really work?" "It's a start," Gregory said. "But we need more. We need character witnesses. People who can speak to Caroline's integrity. Former students, parents, colleagues." "Dr. Morrison," Caroline said suddenly. "My principal. She knows me. She knows I would never do something like this. Perfect. Anyone else?" Caroline thought for a moment. "Emma's mother. The woman from the restaurant. Her daughter was in my class 2 years ago. I tutored her for free every day after school for months." "Good. That shows a pattern of behavior inconsistent with Dylan's claims." Vanessa was taking notes. "What else?" Building a defense for the next week, James's team worked around the clock. They recovered the coffee shop security footage, showing the genuine accident and Caroline's obvious embarrassment. They collected statements from 15 different parents whose children Caroline had helped over the years. They compiled records of her volunteer work at after-school programs and summer reading initiatives. But Dylan wasn't finished. He gave another interview, this time claiming James had paid him to disappear, that the entire wedding disruption had been orchestrated with Caroline's knowledge, that everything about their relationship was fake. "He's lying," Caroline said, reading the new article. "Why is he doing this?" Amanda looked up from her laptop. "Because he's angry and humiliated. And probably because someone is paying him to keep talking." "Who would do that?" "Competing companies. Rival investors. Anyone who wants to damage James's reputation, and by extension his business." James had been mostly quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke. "Then we go on offense, what do you mean?" Caroline asked. "I mean, we stop defending ourselves and start telling our own story. Not through press releases or statements from lawyers. We tell it ourselves directly." Gregory nodded slowly. A television interview. Major network. Prime time. You two, sitting together, telling the real story? Exactly. Caroline felt her stomach drop. I'm not good with cameras. You don't need to be good. You just need to be honest. James took her hand. We tell them about the coffee shop, about how I searched for you, about what happened at the wedding. We show them we're real people, not characters in whatever story they're trying to create. What if it makes things worse? It won't, trust me. The interview was scheduled for the following Friday on a major evening news program. The host, Diane Patterson, was known for being tough but fair. The plan was simple. Tell the truth, stay calm, and show the world that their relationship was genuine. Carolyn spent the week preparing. Amanda coached her on how to sit, how to make eye contact with the camera, how to answer difficult questions without getting defensive. James seemed perfectly calm, but Carolyn noticed he barely slept the night before the taping. Are you nervous? She asked him the morning of the interview. Terrified, he admitted. I've done hundreds of business interviews, but this is different. This is personal. We'll get through it together. The studio was smaller than Caroline expected. 2 chairs facing Diane's desk, bright lights, multiple cameras. Caroline's hands were shaking as the makeup artist did her final touches. 5 minutes, a producer called out. James squeezed her hand. Remember, just be yourself. That's all anyone needs to see. The interview began with Diane asking about the wedding day. Carolyn explained what she'd found in the preparation room, the devastation of discovering Dylan's betrayal. James described arriving at the venue and making his unusual offer. Let me make sure I understand, Diane said. Mr. Whitmore, you offered to marry a woman you just met? That's extraordinarily unusual. It is, James agreed. But I hadn't just met her. I'd been searching for her for 5 months. He explained the coffee shop collision, showed the security footage on the studio monitors. Caroline watched Diane's expression shift from skepticism to interest. Ms. Hayes, sorry, Mrs. Whitmore. What went through your mind when this stranger offered to marry you? Honestly, I thought he was insane. The studio audience laughed. But I also thought that taking a chance on a kind stranger was better than marrying someone who'd betrayed me. And I was right. Are you saying this marriage is real? Not just a business arrangement? Carolyn looked at James, then back at Diane. When we got married, I barely knew him. But over the past few weeks, I've gotten to know the real James. The man who calls his sister every morning to make sure she's okay. Who donates millions to children's hospitals anonymously. Who spent months searching for a woman who spilled coffee on him because something about that moment mattered to him. She paused. This marriage might have started unconventionally, but it's become something real. At least for me. James was looking at her with an expression that made her heart race. For me too. Diane smiled. Your ex-fiancé claims this was all staged. What do you say to that? I say he's a liar who got caught cheating and is trying to salvage his reputation by destroying mine. Caroline's voice was steady. But the truth always comes out eventually. And the truth is that James saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. The interview continued for another 20 minutes. By the end, Caroline felt exhausted but relieved. They'd told their story. Now all they could do was hope people believed them. The aftermath of response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with support for Caroline and James. The security footage went viral, to millions of people watching the genuine coffee shop collision. Dylan's credibility evaporated as people realized he'd been lying. Even better, Dr. Morrison called. Caroline, the school board watched your interview. They've decided to reinstate you immediately. The parents are overwhelmingly supportive. When can you come back? Next Monday, Carolyn said, fighting tears of relief. Thank you, Dr. Morrison. Thank you for handling this with such grace. Your students have missed you. When Caroline told James the news, he picked her up and spun her around. I told you it would work out. You were right, she laughed. I should probably get used to that. Please don't. I like when you challenge me. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to normal. Carolyn went back to teaching, though now she had a security detail that followed her discreetly. James returned to running his company, though he made sure to be home for dinner every night. They fell into a routine that felt surprisingly domestic. One evening, About 2 months after the wedding, they were cooking dinner together in the penthouse kitchen. James was attempting to make pasta while Caroline chopped vegetables, both of them laughing at his culinary struggles. "I run a billion-dollar company," he complained as the pasta water boiled over. "Why can't I cook spaghetti?" Different skill sets. Caroline rescued the pot. "Not everyone can be good at everything. You are. Really not. I can't code. I don't understand stock markets, and I definitely can't afford the kind of life we're living now." James set down his spoon and turned to face her. "Caroline, I need to tell you something. That sounds serious." "It is." He took her hands. "These past 2 months have been the happiest of my life. Coming home to you, talking about our days, learning about your work and sharing mine. It's everything I didn't know I needed." "James, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't want this to be temporary anymore. I'm saying I've fallen completely in love with you. And I know we got married under crazy circumstances, and I know we did everything backwards, but I don't care. I want this to be real. Forever real." Caroline felt tears filling her eyes. "You love me?" "I love you. I love your passion for teaching. I love how you care about everyone around you. I love that you call me out when I'm being ridiculous. I love that you make me want to be a better person." He squeezed her hands. "I love you, Caroline. And I understand if you don't feel the same way yet. But I needed you to know. James, stop talking, okay? But I just want to say that I'll wait as long as you need. And I'll never pressure you, and even if you never love me back, I'll still be grateful for whatever time we have together, because you've already changed my life in the most incredible ways. And I just think you should know that before I completely humiliate myself by continuing to ramble like a nervous teenager who has never talked to a woman before, even though I'm a grown man who runs a company with thousands of employees. So really, I should be better at this. But apparently, when it comes to you, I lose all ability to function like a normal human being. And now I'm definitely humiliating myself, so I'll stop talking now." Caroline was laughing and crying at the same time. "Are you done?" "I think so. Maybe. Probably not." "Good, because I love you too." James froze. "What? I love you too? I've been falling for you since our first real conversation. Since you showed me that being supported doesn't mean losing my independence. Since you proved that some risks are worth taking." She moved closer. "I love you, James Whitmore. Completely and totally." His smile was brilliant. "Really? Really? Can I kiss you now?" "Because I've been wanting to kiss you for weeks, but I didn't want to pressure you. And I know we said this was supposed to be a business arrangement, but that went out the window about a month ago for me. And I've just been waiting for the right moment. And this feels like the right moment, but only if you want me to. Because consent is really important, and I'm rambling again, aren't I?" Caroline pulled him close and kissed him, effectively stopping his rambling. It was their first real kiss as a couple who actually loved each other. And it was perfect. When they finally broke apart, James said, "I think the pasta is ruined. I don't care." "Me neither." They ordered takeout and spent the rest of the evening on the couch, talking about their future. Real plans now, not temporary arrangements. Caroline wanted to start that free tutoring center she'd always dreamed of. James wanted to expand his charitable foundation. Together, they began planning something bigger than either of them had imagined alone. "What do you think about the Whitmore Hayes Foundation for Educational Excellence?" James suggested. "We could fund after-school programs, provide free tutoring, offer scholarships to underprivileged students." "That sounds perfect. But it should just be the Hayes Foundation. This is my dream, not yours. It's our dream now. Everything I have is yours, Caroline, including my name, my resources, and my commitment to making your vision a reality." She kissed him again. "Have I mentioned that I love you?" "Once or twice, but I never get tired of hearing it." 6 months later, Caroline and James stood together at the grand opening of the Hayes Foundation's first learning center. It was located in Caroline's old neighborhood, in a building James had purchased and completely renovated. Inside were tutoring rooms, a computer lab, a library, and spaces for art and music classes. Everything was free for any student who needed it. Former students showed up, including Emma with her mother. Dr. Morrison came, along with half the staff from Caroline's school. Amanda was there, looking proud. Even some of the parents who'd defended Caroline during the media storm attended. "Are you happy?" James whispered as they cut the ribbon together. "Beyond happy. This is everything I ever wanted. Good, because I have one more surprise for you." He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, a beautiful emerald surrounded by diamonds. "James, you already gave me a wedding ring. That was for a marriage of convenience. This is for the real thing." He got down on one knee in front of everyone. "Caroline Hayes Whitmore, would you do me the honor of staying married to me? Not because of convenience or circumstance, but because we love each other, and we're building something beautiful together. Will you choose me every day for the rest of our lives?" Caroline was crying openly now. "Yes. Yes to everything. Forever yes." The crowd erupted in applause as James slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. It wasn't how either of them had planned to start their marriage, but it had become something neither of them could have imagined. "Thank you," Caroline whispered against his lips. "For what? For crashing my wedding? For being crazy enough to marry a stranger? For loving me enough to fight for us? Thank you for taking a chance on me. For seeing past the money and the chaos to who I really am. For making me believe in love again." They stood there together, surrounded by the community they'd helped and the future they were building. Knowing that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected moments, their wedding might have fallen apart. But in its place, they'd built something stronger. Something real. Something worth keeping. And they lived happily ever after, proving that sometimes the craziest decisions lead to the most beautiful destinations.